Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, November 9th, and I hope you are all aware that class has been canceled. I apologize for anybody that had to get out on the roads this morning. It was awful. So I'm hoping everybody is able to stay safe and get back home and stay warm and stay off the roads. So since class was canceled, I did just want to go over just a couple of things. Because we only have one class period left next week now before our last class period, which will be the final. So I don't think there'll be any problems, but if anybody's worried about anything, please feel free to make an appointment and talk with me or send me an email. Those that were signed up for table topics, we'll just have everyone go that has not yet done their table topic. We'll have you all go next Friday, the 16th. So don't worry about that. You'll have a chance to do that. I was going to have an opportunity for the first two groups that did their service learning project on Monday to talk to the other groups that are going on Monday. But it was really, I think both groups did a great job. And the only thing is if you're planning a video, YouTube does not work. So I would encourage you to come up with a plan B. And if you are planning to use a video and it's not on YouTube, please send me the link in advance so that Abby can test it and make sure that it's working. If you're not doing a video, don't worry about it. All the food and other things that you've requested, Abby will have. If you have questions about the about Monday for the two groups that are going, please email me. Otherwise, plan to show up about 3:45 or 3:50 so that we can get ready right at 4 o'clock to get started. And I sent out last week information with my number, Abby's number, and the door to enter. So hopefully you still have that. But give me a call or text me if you're having any problems on the day of the project on Monday. The other, or the topic for this week that we were going to focus on was making requests. And for you're aware of this due to your weekly assignment this week. And what I'm asking you to, or what this week was going to be looking at was how do we make a request of someone without controlling, without being aggressive, but also not being passive and not saying anything or not being direct about what we're asking for. This goes very closely with giving negative feedback because often we're asking people to change a behavior or do something different, which implies then that possibly what they were doing was perhaps negative or needed some constructive feedback. So first, I think what's important is to figure out what do you want to have happen and make sure that you're able to articulate that. And then also think about, is it reasonable given the circumstances? It's important as an assertive person to make requests, but that we're asking requests that are reasonable. If it becomes unreasonable or something that is not something that we could expect from someone else, that moves into that idea of controlling or trying to manipulate or perhaps even being aggressive. We've talked about this a lot, but not apologizing for asking. And then avoid putting yourself down as part of the request. Often people who are passive will do some self-insult or self-deprecation before or as part of the request, and that's not helpful either. So the script that Patterson gives us is called the Deso Script. You describe, express, specify, and then provide the outcome. So describe what's happening, explain how you're feeling about that using those I statements. Be specific then about what you want to have happen, and then what is the outcome that will come from this. This is often, if you do this, we'll be able to spend more time together. If you do this, we'll both be less stressed. If you do this, we'll be able to provide better patient care. The other way of doing it is providing a negative consequence. If you don't do this, then you'll be fired. If you don't do this, I'm going to move out. If you don't do this, I'm going to break up with you, right? Those are using a punishment as trying to get the person to do what they want, what you want. And obviously there's some situations where that's appropriate, but it's the research shows that it's not as effective. It's more effective to provide that positive reward of if we do this, then something positive is going to come from it. So I provided an example here so that you get an idea of what that looks like. This is for a person that maybe is showing up consistently late for work. So Mary, when you arrived at your shift yesterday, I had to take on all your patients as well as mine. That's just briefly describing. You don't need to go into a lot of detail here. This is where you don't want to attack the person or make assumptions about the person. You just want to objectively describe what has happened. And then you're expressing your feelings. I was frustrated because I had a lot of work to do and I felt like I couldn't do a good job because of all the work I had. I would like you to be on time for your shifts going forward. That's that specific behavior. What do you want them to do? I want you to be on time. This is, again, you don't want to get into, I want you to not be so lazy. I want you to be more considerate. What is the specific behavior that you want? And then lastly, what's the outcome of that? By being on time, we can all share the work and provide the best patient care. So this is an example of how you can use that script. And so for people who struggle with confronting someone, I think this can be really helpful. You can even write it out in practice, or just think about those four steps: describe, express, specify, outcome, and that can help you then work through maybe an uncomfortable conversation with someone. The last chapter that I had you guys look at was Countdown to Confrontation, and this is just looking at what maybe there is a person or a situation that you feel does need to be confronted, and it gives you some tips of things to think about prior to going into that confrontation. So in class, we would have written some Deso scripts and shared them and talked about why it's difficult to make these requests. So those are some questions that you can reflect on by yourself. Here are some upcoming dates that are important. So next week will be our last class in on ground, where we have time together to go over the last bit of content of the course. So you have your last weekly assignment, number 11, if applicable. If you have never skipped one, then you can skip number 11. Then next Sunday, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, you have your change agent reflection due that you'll upload on My Methodist. Friday, the 23rd, after Thanksgiving, no class, of course. And then the following Friday, that's November 30th, there's no class due to your service learning project. I'm giving you a comp day for that. So there's no class, and that kind of makes up for the time that you gave on these past few Mondays for your service learning project. We will then meet again in class on Friday, December 7th for the final exam. Class will start at 10 a.m. that day, and we'll do the exam and in-class evaluation, the course evaluation. And then after that Sunday, after the exam, your literature review is due. And then the last Thursday of the semester is when your portfolio is due. So you do have those two final assignments due, although we have no class after the exam. And then the last Friday of the semester, there is no class either. I did want to say a couple of things of some common things I found on your research log number 3. A lot of you provided an outline of what you're going to talk about, and it was usually just summarizing each of the articles. Make sure in your literature review that you include analysis. That is where you're looking at what were the strengths and weaknesses of the articles that you included, what were some of their limitations, and then you also should include in your conclusion, what ideas for future research do you have? Several people have articles that they're using that are older than 5 years. If you are going to use it because you think it's a really important source, then you need to explain why you chose it. Maybe it has a really good historical perspective, or it provided a really good perspective that's not included in some of the other articles, but you should recognize that as a limitation. So the fact that it is older, because we know that especially in healthcare and in the area of leadership and communication, things are constantly changing. So the more recent the articles, the stronger they are. The last thing is a reminder that the paper should be in APA format, and APA in a research paper should be in third person. So that means you should not be using I statements. I chose this article because, or I chose this topic because, or I think we should do this. You should stay in the third person. If you want to talk about your own beliefs about something, or why you chose this, you can say the researcher selected this topic because, if you find that helpful. If you don't like that language, then just stay in that third person. So you could say something like, this is an important topic because, and then you just remove yourself from the situation completely. And your opinions and thoughts and beliefs about the topic are really not what should be included in a research paper. You're really just talking about what does the research say about this topic. So those were a few things that I noticed when going through the through the research logs. If you have questions about the literature review, please email me or set up a time to come talk to me. We won't have a lot of time to talk about it in class on next Friday, but please see me if you still have questions about what you should be doing. All right, I hope you all have a great weekend, and I hope this snow goes away quickly, and we will see you next week. Thanks a lot.